Hey, how's it going? And welcome to the big 50K Q&A video. Okay, so I have to reveal, in the last video I said I was going to be answering 50 questions, but you guys asked a lot of questions, so I figured it'd be fair to, like, double that, so instead I'm going to be answering over 100. And of course, apologies if your question is not answered. A lot of the questions are kind of just, like, repeats, so if you don't see your exact question, there's a pretty good chance I answered it just from, like, somebody else's comment. And if you don't see yours, there's a pretty good chance I've either answered it in a previous Q&A or I just didn't have an answer, so fear not. If you really want your question answered, I guess check out one of the Twitch streams sometime. If you don't see it here, I can probably answer it for you during a stream, but yeah, let's get into it. We have a lot of questions. Michael Lozano says, congrats my guy, your enthusiasm has got me into rants, Devil Survivor, and Digimon Cyber Sleuth. And he asks, what's your height, shoe size, blood type, and best girl you would take to a McDonald's on a rainy day? Height, small. Shoe size, minuscule. Blood type, red. Best girl I would take to a McDonald's on a rainy day. I'm picturing going with, like, Fuka Yamagishi. I think that sounds pretty cute. Maybe Yukari Akiyama. I don't know. There's a lot of girls I would take to McDonald's. The Whatever asks, favorite Fire Emblem character from each of the FE games you've played? Alright, time to out myself as somebody who's only played roughly half of these games. From Blazing Blade, definitely Urk. This is a pretty consistent thing you'll see. It's just that, like, I'm a really big fan of the grumpy mage boys. Hector is a pretty close runner-up, though. From Sacred Stones, it's actually a toss-up between Lute and Larshell. I don't know why. It's weird, because, like, I'm almost never into those, like, bitchy, kind of pompous characters, but for whatever reason in Sacred Stones, two of my favorites are basically that. I don't know which one I would give the win, though. It's pretty comparable. Path of Radiance, definitely Soren. He's my favorite Fire Emblem character in general. Radiant Dawn is a little weird, because, like, there's not really a whole lot of brand new characters that weren't in Path of Radiance. And the ones that are added, I'm not, like, a super fan of. Soren from Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn is my favorite. I don't know. Genuine answer, I don't know why. I actually really like Peleus. He's such a dumb goober. I can't help but like him. From Awakening, probably Henry. Fates is probably Caden, I would say, is my favorite. In Echoes, absolutely my dude Barkut. And then in Three Houses, Linhardt. Jared the Alpaca King asks, I guess the first mission Let's Play an in-depth plot analysis when? So this is like lore, but there is in fact a long since deleted video about I guess the first mission. This video, I think I made in like 2016? I mean, it was an old video. I ended up taking it down. I don't remember exactly why. I'm pretty sure it was because, like, I remember working pretty hard on it, and then some guy left a comment saying it was a pointless video. I was a lot more kind of easily discouraged back then, so I was like, yeah, I guess it was, and I deleted it, but as for, like, actually playing it, I don't know how that would even be facilitated. Like, I'm not sure if there's an emulator available for whatever, like, phone that game was on. And there's also the issue of it not being in English. It's like, there's multiple layers of problems involved with trying to make a video about that, but it is a pretty neat little piece of, like, Persona history. Go look up, like, I guess the first mission if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's like this old phone game that came out. Jacket Mutilator says, congrats man, I'm glad for you. Been around since you took a break from YouTube and you deserve the milestone. My question is, what's your favorite doujin? You seem really cultured. So my favorite, like, doujin and series, I guess, is Futabu. If I had to pick a favorite one, it's the Futabu, body measurements one. This is, like, the weirdest shit ever, but I'm really into knowing the exact numerical length of certain body parts. You can probably guess which ones I'm talking about. I don't know, whenever I'm enjoying a comic, right, and they don't give the exact measurement, I'm like, but I want to know. I need the mathematical formula. And that doujin definitely satisfies that. But yeah, it's also the only, like, doujin series that I own physically. I have a whole compilation doujin of, like, Bashi's work. It's one of my most prized possessions, but yeah, favorite doujin, absolutely the Futabu series. LogChicha says, what's been your favorite P4G mod you've tried out? The Adachi one that turns everybody into Adachi is really fucking entertaining. Just because I'm so biased towards liking Adachi, I'd say that's definitely one of my favorites. Some other ones include Belle Delphine Rise, I think is really good, Chie Minecraft. There's this one mod, I haven't installed it yet, but it turns Teddy invisible. I might have to experiment around with that, see what happens. Peter Griffin Dojima, another great one. E-Girl Nanako, and Nanako with a big mouth. Such wonderful delights. Raiden Sparrow says, congrats on 50k. Questions, how'd you get into Devil May Cry? He says, side note, great Virgil gameplay. Wow, thanks. I hope you like my mediocre Virgil gameplay. That's probably what you're going to be seeing throughout this whole video, but... So, Devil May Cry, ironically, is a series that I think I first started to, like, really learn about when DMC The Reboot was, like, being hyped up. I was, like, vaguely sort of aware of what Devil May Cry was, who Dante was before, but ironically, it was all the people getting mad about the reboot that caught my eye and made me think, like, huh, what's this Devil May Cry series all about? And that's when I ended up getting the HD collection, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, in some weird, fucked up way, like, I'm sure I would have played them eventually, but it was how mad people were about the existence of DMC that kind of got me to try it to begin with. So, thanks, DMC Devil May Cry. MC Grope says, congrats on 50k, how's the weather for you? Very stormy and, like, kinda sorta cold, but not enough to be annoying. I actually like the winter time here in Louisiana. It's, like, chilly, but it's not too bad, you know? When's the next Figuring Out Fetishes? That's a great question. I've been meaning to do Figuring Out Fetishes Giantesses with, Medi and Flair for the longest. It'll happen eventually, I promise. Swear on me, Mum. Before 2021 ends, it will be a thing that happens. Sean Hostetter says, is SMT Demonology dead? I would describe SMT Demonology as being, like, one of those action movie heroes that's, like, in retirement, and then the next movie comes out and they get pulled out of retirement. It's kind of in that state. Like, I've made attempts at, you know, just perusing the Mega 10 wiki and being like, oh, what's a demon I can talk about? And even though there's a ton of demons and personas that I really would like to make videos on, like, anytime I start to, like, actually kind of really work on it, start scripting and researching, I kind of just think, like, because those videos do take quite a bit of work, and I'm, like, a lazy piece of shit, so... Like, I absolutely see people asking for the return of demonology, and it's definitely something that, like, trust me, if I could just snap my fingers and will a demonology into existence, I absolutely would, but we'll see. Maybe I'll end up surprising you guys. I'll just drop a demonology out of nowhere, but it's definitely possible. I would say maybe if, like, SMT5 comes out and then there's, like, a particular demon I want to talk about, then I'll probably make one, but we'll see. At the moment, it's in a sort of limbo. Mr. Opti, another longtime viewer, says, what game has the coolest weapon, and congrats on the 50k. So this is, like, the most weird, stretched out definition of a weapon, but one of the ones that immediately came to mind was Bedman's bed frame. Like, what a fucking crackhead idea for a way for somebody to fight. Bedman's bed is basically this death robot machine with, like, crazy saws and shit all over him. And Bedman has probably my favorite, like, character design from anything ever, so I would say Bedman's bed frame is probably my answer for, like, my favorite weapon. The Yamato from Devil May Cry is another one. Cheese Bunny says, quick question, any game you'd like to talk about but can't think of anything to discuss? Like, there's a lot of different games that I've played and enjoyed, but there's not really a whole lot that I would, like, really feel a strong desire to talk about. Like, Dark Souls, the Souls games, for example, is a series that I like, but it's like, there's really not very much in those games I'd really feel a strong urge to talk about. Metal Gear is another one. Like, I'm a really big Metal Gear fan. I don't think I've made a single video about Metal Gear, though. Maybe at some point I'll have to do kind of like a Metal Gear retrospective of some sort, but Vitamin D asks, do you put Pockies in the freezer before eating them? I have never heard of somebody doing that. Like, I usually put chocolate stuff in the fridge to kind of cool it off, so maybe next time I get some Pocky, I'll try out this freezer strategy. Bio Gundam says, question, what are you planning to do for content next year? Pretty much more of the same. Probably not going to be any radical departures. It's going to be a lot more just like, you know, the usual discussions, reviews of stuff, videos about Strikers, SMT5. But beyond that, it's kind of just like whatever I think of. I'm really not the kind of person that, like, stockpiles a huge amount of videos to, like, talk about. You know, there's a couple of ideas for things I've had for a while, like, I remember the Adachi versus the investigation team, or not Adachi, Adachi versus the Morio gang is one I was wanting to make for years. There's another Adachi-related video that I've been planning to do for a while, but now that I've finished Royal, I think it can finally happen. This pretty much gives it away, but the premise is, what if two detectives from two Persona games who were both evil had a fight? I'll let your imaginations run wild on that one, but beyond that, it's gonna be pretty business as usual. Monado Ace says, hey, congrats, you've been one of my go-to people to listen to when I'm playing a game casually, going for a walk or whatever. Always fun stuff, and Bernadachi may be a commonly known joke amongst my friends now. Oh, excellent. I fucking love and hate Bernadachi. God, what inspired me to do that? Jesus Christ. Says, what are some franchises you'd really like to see get the Dragon Ball FighterZ treatment? I'd say the number one, I've said this quite a number of times, but definitely a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game. I would kill to have that, because, like, the last real JoJo fighting game that we had was Heritage for the Future, and that came out in, like, it was like a Dreamcast game. Well, you know, we've had, like, All-Star Battle, which is a fighting game, but good luck having a competitive scene around that. And then there's, like, Eyes of Heaven, but I think there's just so much they can do with, like, the characters that they'd be given for a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game. Just think about how unique they could all be. It's Me Ultimate says, actual question, do you have a big plan for the channel or just carrying on with this? Either way, fantastic content. See, so I kind of just answered It's Me Ultimate's actual question a second ago. I wanted to do his stupid question, though. It says, can you say, hello, everyone, this is your daily dose of internet in the Adachi voice, of course. Hello, everyone, this is your daily dose of internet. Ian the Gamer Guy says, if you could only make one become real, which would you choose, Rin, Fuka, Adachi, or Igus? I'm not sure which Rin you're talking about. I would assume probably Rin Tezuka. Which one would I make real? Probably Igus. Because, like, Rin Tezuka is... I don't know, even though I really like Rin as a character, I feel like if she actually existed, she'd kind of frustrate me. Adachi, we probably don't need Adachi to, like, actually exist in the world. And Fuka's a cutie pie, but I think Igus just, like, existing would be the most fascinating. Just, the scientific possibilities are endless, dude. Kex says, what color do you think Persona 6 will use? Like, I think they've kind of gone through most of the really appealing colors already. They haven't used green yet, I don't think. Persona 1 is, like, kind of associated with purple, but not really. Maybe purple could work. But probably, I would say purple or green seem to be the most likely candidates. And he also says, good job on 50k. You're actually the YouTuber who got me into SMT, which has become a large part of my life. Oh, that's great to hear. And your videos really do add a fun spark in any day, even the Adachi videos. I like how he says, even the Adachi videos. I'm not sure if you pronounce this Andre or Andres, but Andres Paris says, I'm so glad I found your channel. Congrats on 50k, man. Thank you. Question-wise, what do you do when you get burnt out of a video game series or anime that you love? So I can answer this one from first-hand experience. Like, I think the worst burnout for any particular game I ever experienced was for Persona 5, and it really wasn't even because of, like, seeing too much of it. I think it was more just, like, seeing the constant both arguments and weird, crazy people surrounding it. It became kind of exhausting. Like, every time I saw a P5 character, I would kind of enter fight or flight mode, where my immediate response would either mentally be like, oh no, what deep misery did Persona 5 cause you today? Or, oh no, what real-world situation are you gonna say needs to be sent a calling card? Like, but I think how I got over it was just, like, not being on Twitter anymore. This is my obligatory don't be on Twitter for the video, but just cutting that out of my life improved my overall mood substantially. And just being able to take that time and not have that, like, influx of negativity really helped a lot. Like, I finished Persona 5 Royal pretty recently, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I definitely feel like if I had gotten it on release when I was kind of, like, at the height of my tiredness with Persona 5, I don't think I would have enjoyed it quite as much. So I really do think the best thing that you can do when you feel like you're getting burnt out on a series, it's kind of just a common sense answer, but it's like, just take a break from it, really. You know, it should be something that you get enjoyment out of. It's not like you're married to the game, you know? You don't have to file divorce papers to not constantly see a certain game on your timeline or whatever. And it's always okay to, like, move on to other things and just be a fan of something else for a while, right? So that's my pro tip, is to just, like, get off of Twitter, basically. And also just cut negativity out of your life. Tree says, I found you through the Where to Start SMT vid way back, and honestly only kept watching because of your voice. A lot of people say they like my voice for some reason. I don't quite get why. Says, later finding out you're a fellow Louisiana-dwelling swamp hobbit and went to the same con as me in Louisiana on the same year was pretty neat. Then I just fell in love with the shitty posts you made. Yeah, man, I mean, I wish we could have met up. Like, I never really announce that I'm going to cons or whatever, because I pretty much only stick to the one near me, but, I don't know, assuming the you-know-what settles down and we could have conventions again, which I'm expecting in 2021 at this point, it's maybe not gonna happen, but, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll make, like, an announcement or a video or something just saying I'm at the con. Maybe I can do a little meetup or something, but... And he says, been a fan for a while, here's to another 50k. Thank you, man. And Q&A question, what's the most meaningful song to you? At least for, like, video games, I would say probably Memories of You from Persona 3. Man, that song, like, you get me in the wrong mood and I start hearing that song, I might start crying, but... I think it's just the fact that it's, like, that song is kind of the conclusion to my favorite game that makes it so impactful for me. My boy Oziak. Yo, everybody should go sub to Oziak. I'm so proud of my boy Oziak. You know, I remember him leaving comments and stuff on my videos, and then one day he just started making videos, and his channel has done very, very well. He's also a fellow 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim enjoyer, which is pretty cool by me, but... Says, hey dude, congrats on the milestone, been keeping up with your stuff for about 3 years now, Jesus, 3 years. He says, and it's been awesome to see how you've grown and changed over time. You seriously inspired me to delve deeper into Mega 10 as a whole, and it's been nothing but a positive impact on my life. Stay awesome. Oh, thank you. You stay awesome too, my dude. He says, on to questions. I was wondering what your favorite video you've ever made was. In case that's already been asked, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Honey Pop 2, since that game is strangely one of the most hyped games on the horizon for me. I would say, in terms of, like, recent videos that I've made, one of my favorites is, Adachi versus the Morio Gang. I had so much fun making that video, and I still, like, can go back to that video, and it still makes me laugh. Plus, just the fact that it was something I wanted to make for so long, so I'm really happy that video turned out the way it did. A lot of the JoJo June videos from this past year I really liked, but... And as for Honey Pop 2, I've been waiting for Honey Pop 2 for years and years and years at this point. For those of you who don't know, Honey Pop is pretty much the game that, like, started the channel. I'm pretty sure I have some questions going up where I'll be able to talk about this in more depth, but the channel pretty much, like, started making videos because of Honey Pop, so even though it's just like a fucking puzzle game dating sim, it has a weirdly special place in my heart. So yeah, I'm absolutely excited for Honey Pop 2. Matthew Balogan says, congrats, I've been watching you for a long time, and you and Flair's shenanigans have helped me through some rough things and broadened my horizons when it comes to a lot of games and anime I watch and play. Hell yeah, it's great to hear, man. Says, my question is, what do you think will happen at the Persona anniversary? What do you want to see? And also, when will we get the real, genuine, non-Galera Discord link? As for the Persona anniversary, I'm not sure. Like, I don't really tend to go into, like, these anniversary or celebration events with a particular goal or, like, thing in mind. Like, I don't really tune in thinking, alright, now it's time to see Persona 8 get revealed or whatever. So, I don't know, I kind of like being surprised. And as for the Discord, I do have a Twitch sub Discord. I've only ever really advertised it on the Twitch, but if you want to join, all you have to do is be a Twitch sub, and then go on your Discord and make sure your Discord and Twitch are synced, and then you should be able to join it through connections. You know, these public Discords end up being such a shit show. It's like, it feels like no matter how hard you try to moderate them, there's always some new problem. So I feel like that's kind of the best compromise between making it, like, semi-public, but not entirely just like a free-for-all shit show. Jared Warner says, have you seen any Studio Ghibli movies besides Kiki's Delivery Service? I've seen a couple of them. I'm really not like the world's ultimate mega Ghibli fan. I've seen Spirited Away, Nausicaa, and I've seen My Neighbor Totoro, and Kiki, obviously. Kiki's Delivery Service is my favorite movie, but yeah, I really need to watch more of them. It's one of those kinds of things where it's like, I'm just lazy. Yeah, eventually I'll probably watch a couple more of them, but as of right now, I've only seen those couple. Xana says, are you planning on trying to interview more voice actors or bring voice actors back like Sai Nijima's voice actor, and asking if she ever finished the game? Alright, so here's the dark secret about doing the voice actor interviews. Those are unironically the most stressful videos I've made. I cannot even begin to describe the level of anxiety making those brings to me. Because first of all, it's this multi-layered process where it's like, you gotta ask the voice actor, right? You gotta send them an email or whatever. And then you have to wait anxiously for them to maybe respond. Then if they say yes, it's like, oh my god, now I have to like coordinate a time and add them on Discord or Skype or whatever. Oh gosh golly. And then even when the date is set, then it's just like a week of anxious waiting. And then it finally happens, and it's like, oh my god, I'm actually talking to this person. Oh god. So it's the kind of thing that's like, it's so cool that I have those on the channel. Just like, you know, interview with Sean Shiplock, with Elizabeth Maxwell, Xanthe Huynh. Those really are just, like, some of the proudest, like, accomplishments on the channel, I think, but... Like, I wouldn't mind doing more of them, but it's such a stressful endeavor. It's the kind of thing that, like, I don't really want to actively seek out anymore. So never say never. Maybe I'll have, like, another voice actor interview at some point, but they're stressful, dog. Trust me. Garrett Warren says, what made you decide to dress up as Caroline for the Fifth Foods? I have a whole video kind of delving into this topic, but... The quick answer is basically just that I think Caroline has my favorite design of any Persona character. Like, I just really love the Warden aesthetic and the whole outfit, and like, oh man, I just really like that outfit. That's basically the simple answer, is I like the design. So I thought this was a really interesting question from Haunted Breadstick. It says, what are your thoughts on content being removed or altered in re-releases without the original director's involvement? Like how they changed Persona 3's combat in P3P despite it being important to the game's narrative. Like, I think that gets into a kind of broader topic of, like, should art be fucked with? And kind of, like, the sanctity of an author's vision and whether or not that should be messed with at all. And it really is just such a case-by-case kind of thing. It's like, you look at, you know, Star Wars, for example. Like, George Lucas can't leave those poor movies alone. It's like, it's his movies, but eventually it kind of reaches this point where it's like, who owns, like, art, you know? And even if you do own it, should you, like, be allowed to fuck with it? If Leonardo da Vinci came back to life and said, I want to burn the Mona Lisa, like, should he be allowed to do that? But I guess my philosophy on it is that, like, it's okay to fuck with something as long as there's a way to experience it as it originally was. You know, like, in the case of P3P, I do think that, like, some of the decisions you can make in the FemC route when it comes to, like, the themes of the games are kind of detrimental to it. But at least there's a way to play FES and get the closer to quote-unquote true experience. I think I have a much greater issue with, like, you know, Star Wars, for example, where it's like, if you want to experience these movies the way they originally were, it's kind of like tough shit. You have to track them down. It kind of makes you wonder, like, if George Lucas wanted, if he could snap his fingers and make all versions of Star Wars except the most current ones just vanish, would he? So yeah, I don't know. There's really not a right answer. I guess I'm generally of the belief that, like, if something is made and is considered finished, then you should probably stop fucking with it. Wow, the real Dr. Maruki, I'm a big fan. He says, congrats on the huge milestone. He says, now for a question, if SMT5 had a cameo character like Dante in Nocturne, who would you want it to be? See, I think I hold the same opinion that a lot of people have, in that I think Bayonetta would be the perfect fit. Because I think part of the beauty of Dante being in Nocturne is just the fact that he blends in so well. Because, like, if you stop and think about an alternate reality where Devil May Cry doesn't exist, but Dante is still in Nocturne, there really wouldn't be, like, some grand wondering about, oh man, what was Dante? He was so out of place. Who is that man? Because he just fits in so well with, like, the aesthetic of it and the I guess, kind of the lore of the game, too. But, yeah, I think Bayonetta would be a perfect inclusion, since I think she would really fit in with, you know, with just SMT how it is. So I think that would be a lot better than including, like, Sonic as a cameo. That'd be kind of funny, actually. But yeah, for me, I would definitely say Bayonetta. Ryan Nerds 101 says, alright, here's my question, and it's simple. What's your favorite JoJo part, ranked to your least favorite? My favorite part, it's kind of a dead tie between 4 and 7. I would probably give 4 the slightest edge, but I think, like, part 7 still has one of my favorite stories in any manga. I would say my least favorite is probably 6. Maybe the anime will improve my opinion of it, but I feel like out of all the parts, it's just the one that I have, like, I get the least enjoyment out of. There's not really a whole lot of characters in it I like. I'm not really crazy about the actual story. The stands are, like, okay. It's kind of just the part that does the least for me, even though I still enjoy it, but I'd say probably part 6 is my least favorite. Grumpy says, congrats on 5K. Yeah, dude, 5,000 subs. Let's go. Says, are you ever going to read the big 3, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece? If you have, what's your opinion on them? Out of those, I have read Bleach. It's one of my great guilty pleasure, like, series. Like, I've been into Bleach for the longest, ever since it was first airing on Cartoon Network way back when. Naruto, I know a ton of shit about. I just have, like, this weird knowledge of Naruto that I've accumulated throughout the years. But the furthest I ever read into it was, like, the tuning exams. And then One Piece is kind of just the mystery. Like, at some point I would like to read it, but it's One Piece. It's such a big project. It's not the kind of thing that I really, like, want to dive into at the moment, but probably someday I will. Radical Thinking says, been here a while, glad to see you're making it, man. You deserve it and wish the best for you. Ah, thank you. Question being, we know your favorite Pokemon. Do you have a least favorite Pokemon? If so, why? Yeah, so my favorite Pokemon is Slowking. I have a video about that, but Slowking is definitely my favorite Pokemon. I would say my least favorite is Barbaracle. I think that's the most hideous creature ever. God, what an ugly fucking thing Barbaracle is. Golden Spiral asks, if you ever make a second part of the Turning Creepypastas into Demons video, would you include Kevin from the Honey Pop Creepypasta? I'm amazed you remember that video. I think, like, that's part of the fun of the channel, I guess, is that, like, out of nowhere, random shit that we made 3-4 years ago will just be brought up. I don't know, I don't feel like Kevin from the Honey Pop Creepypasta has enough of a, like, he's not integrated himself into the human psyche enough to be a demon. But no, I think we could definitely do another one of those. There's so many, like, just beyond creepypastas, like, urban legends and weird shit on the internet. So maybe for Halloween next year, we'll do that again, maybe. Arzen Yuki asks, have you ever heard of the Trails series, Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel, etc.? They're brilliant JRPGs with some of the best storytelling I've ever seen. Well done on 50K. I've heard of the Trails series. I have not gotten into any of them yet, though. I don't know if any of you know Lady Virgilia. She's a channel I like a lot. She makes a lot of, like, really, really good Persona 5 videos, kind of analyzing the P5 characters from, like, you know, I guess a Japanese societal viewpoint of why a lot of these characters are probably a lot more appealing to the Japanese audience than, like, Western ones. And she's really into Trails. That's, like, the predominant thing she does on her channel. But maybe at some point I'll have to ask her, like, where to start. Simon DeCare says, congrats on 50K, King. Your vids have been a real bright spot in this dumpster fire of a year. Ah, thank you. Says, I can't remember if you've answered this before. If not, could you explain how you got into the Persona and SMT series? Doing good work, dude. Here's the 50K more. So, Persona is, like, at least Persona 4 was a game that I always had kind of a sort of knowledge on. You know, it's kind of hard to avoid the waifu wars of, like, oh man, which one's the best girl? So through that, I kind of developed, like, I knew all of their names and a little bit about them, at least for the main Persona 4 girls, but it was a series that I always had kind of an interest in, you know, the idea of, day-to-day life, like, RPG, social simulator, whatever, that sounds up my alley. But it wasn't until Persona 3 got added to the PlayStation Store that I was finally able to, like, really try it. And it ended up becoming my favorite video game. And after playing it, I ended up going through Persona 4, and then I think after that is when I kind of learned about the larger SMT series, and I tried Nocturne, and it's all been downhill from there. My boy Lolo says, before getting to questions, I just have to say congrats on 50K. It's an achievement I would be surprised to ever reach myself. Your content to me represents what YouTube should really be. No bullshit, no sponsorship shilling for 2 minutes at the start of each video, no filtering of words. There's someone saying what they think, talking about what they want, and sharing it with the world. Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know, like, I've always tried my best to kind of keep it real. I think I've always kind of mentally been stuck in that, like, you know, around 2010 and before era of, like, YouTube pretty much just being a thing that people did for fun and to kind of goof around. And I've never really had any intentions of it being any bigger than that, but yeah, thank you, man. Says, first off, I don't recall ever talking about the origin of the Adachi voice in any of your videos. Is there a super secret backstory to it or something more mundane? There's not really, like, a Batman-esque origin story for the Adachi voice. It was kind of just something that I started doing for no particular reason. And over time, it kind of just morphed into this weird staple of the channel for some reason. He says, will you ever do the Devil Survivor 2 Triangulum arc review you say you're going to do in the Devil Survivor 2 Septeptrion arc review? So I never actually finished the Triangulum arc review. Like, I started playing it pretty much immediately after, and I think I got kind of burnt out pretty quick because, at least for me with Devil Survivor 2, like, that final boss was so stressful. It was kind of like, it was a nice feeling of relief when I finished it. And then going right back immediately into more was kind of like, it kind of put me off, but probably at some point, I think I'll end up replaying just all of Devil Survivor 2 and then maybe doing a video on Triangulum, but which demon from SMT do you like the least? I think the ugliest, most stupidly designed demon is Sanat from SMT 4. Look him up if you don't know what he looks like. He's this horrible, like, abomination of, he's got like a fucking wheel and then his other leg is just like not really a leg, but fucking, and then he's got like an arm on one side and he's just fucking ugly. There's no real cohesion to it. It's like, how does this thing exist? It's just nasty. Favorite video on YouTube? My favorite video on YouTube is a video called Counting Stars with Randy Savage. all it fucking is a, like, a mashup of this Katawa Shoujo song with Randy Savage talking. And for some reason, that has remained my favorite video ever. And favorite I made, I think I answered this one a second ago, but probably, at least as of recently, the Adachi versus, the Mario Gang video. Nicholas Gallagher says, congrats, my fellow. It's been an honor and a pleasure to watch your channel grow and achieve such lofty heights. Thank you. And he says, do you think there will ever be a Persona game that takes place mostly or entirely outside of Japan, whether real or fictional? For example, European, African, or other Western locale. I feel like this is always kind of going to be one of the, like, Western Persona and SMT fan bases kind of dreams, is like, oh yeah, I want a Persona game out, but not in Japan. And it's something I would like to see, but I just feel like, you know, Atlus being what they are, being such a Japanese kind of focused company, I don't know if they would want to rock the boat too much by kind of alienating some of their Japanese players by being like, yeah, next Persona game takes place in fucking Great Britain or something. Like, it would be cool to see. You know, I really enjoy Catherine just because it has such a kind of Western feeling to it. You know, they all have, like, English names, and it's just a very Western feeling setting, which I think is pretty cool, but it's possible. I would say, like, never say never on it, but I feel like it's one of those kind of things that's gonna stick to the realm of fantasy. Headless Jack Frost. Oh no, he lost his head. Says, congrats on 50k subs. Here's my question. What are some of your favorite movies of all time? So, Kiki's Delivery Service is my favorite movie, like, ever. I'm pretty sure it was the first anime thing I ever saw. And ever since I was, like, a little baby when I first watched it, I was kind of just enamored with it. The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, I would say, is probably my second favorite, like, anime movie. That movie is fucking awesome. Man, I should give it a rewatch, actually, now that it's wintertime. I always like watching that movie in the winter, but as for a non-weeb movie, I would say Forrest Gump is probably my favorite. I really enjoy that movie. Very heartwarming. And it's also just a really interesting look at, like, late 20th century America, which I think is just an interesting kind of time period. So yeah, that's a couple of them. Curse Shibito says, sorry if this has been asked several times, but thought about playing and reviewing the Persona 2 duology. Dog, I have been playing quote-unquote Persona 2 for many years now. And it's, like, it's one of those kinds of games where I really wish I could just power through it, but it's like, man, I find that gameplay rough, dude. Like, I swear on me mom, I found the gameplay in Shin Megami Tensei 1 to be more appealing. And it's fucked up because it's like, I really do enjoy the characters and the story, but it's like, just playing it makes me like, oh, it just makes me want to stop. I feel like at some point I'm just gonna cave and become a fucking casual and just watch a playthrough, but then it's like, then I'm never gonna let that go for myself of being like, yeah, I never actually finished it, I only watched it, I need to finish it. So probably at some point I'm just gonna be like, I just need to finish this game. I might start over a new file just to kind of like, I don't know, get myself through it easier. I know that's a weird thing to say, to be like, restart, but I'm really not very far into it. I'll just fucking fast forward through everything as fast as possible. Joshy the Scrub says, congratulations. If a tribe of Jack Frost stumbled upon you and elected you their leader, would you accept? Probably not. I mean, like, I don't really do very well with cold. I would feel a little weirded out. I don't know, I don't feel like I would be able to trust the Jack Frosts. I think they've made a poor leadership decision if they're making me their king. I wouldn't mind having a Jack Frost, but a whole tribe of them? That sounds a little spooky, I don't know. My boy Moxie. This motherfucker is a mod on my Twitch channel. Fucking mod. Says, you were one of the first channels I started following when I was learning English. I'm really happy to see you growing. Oh, thank you, baby. Now that Virgil is out in DMC5, what is your favorite Devil May Cry? You gay. Well, you too. At this point, it's 5. Like, I always said, if DMC5 had Virgil, then it would immediately become my favorite. And even though I still thoroughly love 3, I think 5 is just like, at least for me, it's just a more satisfying, fun playing experience. You know, there's just less puzzle solving involved, even though, like, DMC3 isn't very puzzle solving heavy. DMC1 is, but, like, at least for me, when I play Devil May Cry, I want to play it to beat things up. And 5, I think, is the best kind of facilitator of that. And now that it has, you know, fucking Virgil, it has Nero, it has V, and it has Dante, it is now absolutely my favorite of them. Sam Hackworth says, if you were to completely change the type of videos you make on your channel, what type of videos would you make? See, it's kind of hard for me to answer that because I make so many different weird kinds of things. It's kind of hard for me to really determine, like, this is the kind of video that I make. Like, I'm not really a big Let's Play maker kind of guy. Yeah, I don't know, I can't really picture myself doing anything but this weird hodgepodge of random stuff. So that's pretty much what it's gonna be for forever. Anthony Kaltenecker says, when are you going to talk about Jojolion and what are your thoughts on it? So I think I'm going to save, like, video making on Jojolion until it's done. But Jojolion is interesting. I don't know, like, at least for me, I've gone through periods of it being super fascinating and then just horribly dull. But it's definitely interesting. I don't know. Maybe if I go through when it's finished and I just read through the whole thing, I'll end up really enjoying it. But as of right now, I just don't feel that strong of an urge to, like, read it on a monthly basis. But once it's finished, I'll definitely kind of power through it. Nikki Rice says, hello, congrats on making it to 50k subs. Thank you. Says, anyways, I wanted to ask why in your Honeypop playthrough the comments are disabled. I'm just asking because I genuinely think those are some of your best videos, and one playthrough I come back to visit every once in a while all these years when I get bored. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. See, like, I actually do like that playthrough quite a bit. I just feel like, the audio quality of it is so bad. I'm pretty sure that's why I had the comments disabled to begin with. Just because I didn't want to deal with an influx of people being like, wow, it sounds like shit. It's like, yeah, dude, I made it 5 years ago. So that's why, but yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed such an ancient Let's Play. John the Wizard asked, congrats on hitting 50k now. Question, do you still think a P3 remaster isn't a good idea? Like, I'm still very much of the mindset of thinking, like, I really don't think that it's necessary. My two biggest worries are just the idea that they're gonna, like, fuck with the story in some way that's really not pleasant. And the second is the potential freak the fuck out if, like, everybody's weird little imaginary version of a Persona 3 remake isn't met. Because then there'll just be an endless, unstoppable tsunami of people going, there's no Femsi! Or Tartarus is still uninteresting. Like, yeah, if it came out, I'd probably end up getting it, but I think looking back at that video, I definitely would have kind of phrased my mentality a lot differently. You know, I think instead of calling it, like, why a Persona 3 remaster isn't a good idea, I would have called it something more along the lines of, like, potential problems a Persona 3 remake would face. I don't know, I just feel like the cult of people asking for a remake as if it's, like, gonna save us from some apocalypse is just really annoying. Like, I sure as fuck would rather see a Persona 1 or Persona 2 or fucking SMT 1 remake. But I don't know, now I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, you know what, if it gets announced, that's fine. If not, then, like, that's also fine. Nals asks, do you often look back and reflect on Fither the Last and that time of displeasure and dissatisfaction with YouTube? Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, 2018 was a very bad year for me. You know, I kind of felt like everything that could have gone wrong was going wrong. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with this, but back in 2018, I really did have every intention of, like, just quitting YouTube. I was in such a bad state of mind. Like, eventually I did decide to come back, and I do kind of reflect back on those times, mostly just to stop and think, like, man, I'm glad I'm not feeling like that anymore. And there's obviously ups and downs to it. Some weeks I'm like, oh yeah, I have, like, 15 fucking videos I want to make, and some weeks I'm just like, yeah, I'll do other things. But I think that's a really good kind of place for me to be in, is that, like, if I want to upload a thing, I'm gonna upload it. If not, then, like, I have other things going on. He says, I've been with your channel since February 2016. Wow, that's a long time. While your passion is just as strong now as it was back then, I remember Fither the Last and felt disappointed with the potential lack of content, though I fully accepted why. My question is, how has your outlook on the world changed the last 2 years, and do you fear going back to that state of mind? I would say I'm definitely more just, like, kind of positive in general when it comes to things. You know, things aren't perfect, and they never will be, but I at least feel a sort of peace of mind, I guess. You know, now YouTube isn't the kind of epicenter of my ego like it was back then. Even though it does bring me a lot of satisfaction and joy and stuff, it's not really, like, the ultimate focus of my being. And, you know, it is very, very easy to get wrapped up in the numbers game, in the feeling of quote-unquote fame or whatever. And especially for somebody like me who, this may surprise you, but I'm not the most confident person in the world. That kind of YouTube allure is like, it's almost like the dark side of the Force or something. It's like, yeah, it feels good, but if you let it corrupt you, then it's very, very bad for your state of mind. But do I fear going back to that state of mind? I wouldn't say it's like an active fear. It's not the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, but I do wonder from time to time, like, what if? But I feel like I'm in a kind of state of mind where that wouldn't happen anymore. And now I think I have more kind of self-discipline to where, like, if I feel like I'm in a bad state of mind doing YouTube stuff, I'll just take a break, you know? But yeah, I'm in a much better state of mind now. 2020 has been very, very good. I feel like this is one of the, like, this and I'd say 2017 are probably the 2 years where I felt the most kind of, like, pleased with with YouTube. You know, it's been satisfying, but not really something that I feel like is some kind of ego crutch in my life, but I'm definitely doing a lot better now. So Mexi Metal has a question I kind of already answered, but I figured I'd read it anyway since it was such a sweet message. It says, "You deserve that and so much more, man. I've been subbed to you since the Persona 3 retrospective. Almost shed a tear when you guys uploaded that interview with Molly. Grateful for the awesome content you and Flair provided for us. That video in particular is my favorite just because it got me to get in touch with members of fandoms who are much older than me, who were able to experience a lot of things I love when they were new and relevant." And he says, "That being said, my question is, would you ever consider doing something like your old demonology videos again?" Yeah, like I said, I definitely wouldn't consider demonology like a dead series. It's just, it's asleep. But for anybody who's itching for more, like, SMT content, trust me, I see you guys in the comments all the time. I'm sure once SMT 5 comes out, I'll be making a lot more, like, SMT stuff. It's just, I kind of feel like I need that spark of something new that's SMT to really motivate me to, like, talk about this series. Because as of right now, there's really not a whole lot for, like, SMT that I'm really dying to talk about. So once that new kind of SMT influx starts, I'll definitely be making more videos about it. Hand Soap asked the age-old questions. Will you ever make How Would P5 Guys Fare as Dads? Congrats on 50k. So Persona 5 Dads is a video that we've tried to make a couple of times, and every time it just ends up not being that funny. You know, if I could just magically make that video appear, I totally would, but I don't know. I feel like whenever we tried to do it, it didn't feel natural. A lot of our videos kind of just spawn from something like, just some natural thing that happens. Like, the most recent one we did together was the Sonic Robo Blast 2 stream and video. And that just happened because Flair was like, "You want to stream this sometime?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." But I feel like this is going to make us sound like some real auteurs or something. But whenever there's a video that people are like, "You should make this video," and then we try to do it, it ends up kind of feeling forced. And we really don't want to put out something that makes us feel like we just made it because we had to, you know? So never say never, but I feel like at this point it's probably not gonna happen. I don't know, the idea of it maybe coming out is in some weird way more appealing than it actually being a thing, but yeah, I would say it's probably not gonna happen. Cardinal asked, "What fictional character would you want to have as a roommate? Congrats on 50k. I think for me, Josuke from JoJo Part 4 would probably be like the perfect roommate. First of all, just because he's like one of my favorite characters from anything ever. But just imagine how great it would be to have Josuke around, you know? He can heal any of your injuries, he's just such a nice guy, you can play video games with him, he'll keep you safe. And shit, dog, if I hang around him for long enough, maybe I'll end up getting a stand of my own." X Megami says, "Congrats on 50k subs. Sort of have two mini questions with the same theme, so I'll just throw them both out. Have you seen the anime Gun X Sword? I have not. Has the same director and most of the staff that would go on to make Code Geass a year later. Well, now that you've mentioned Code Geass, I might have to give that a look-see. Have you played The Outer Worlds? If so, what are your thoughts on it?" I have not. The Outer Worlds is one of those games that I'm like, I'm probably gonna get to eventually. But yeah, the fact that it was made by like most of the New Vegas people, I think makes that pretty appealing, because like New Vegas is my favorite Western video game, so yeah, at some point I'll definitely check it out. He says, "On a side note, I want to thank you for all the great content. I found your channel when I was in grade 10. Jesus. Now it's been over a year since I graduated. Still get excited for every upload. Even if it's just ramblings about what you're passionate about and goofy jokes, I still consider your videos a highlight of the day whenever they do come out." Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I know you've been around for a long time. I always look forward to seeing you comment, so thank you. This is quite a question from Esp. It says, "I saw you and Flair watching Nazo Unleashed. Will you ever do a live reaction to Super Mario Bros. Z?" That's a great idea. I think we might have to do that at some point, because we're both big Super Mario Bros. Z fans, so that might be a lot of fun to kind of reminisce and re-experience some of that. Chalky Muffin says, "Congrats on 50k. As for my question, what was the Smash reveal that hyped you up the most?" Throughout history, I don't think there's been a video game, like, announcement that I found more exciting than Sonic being in Smash. I'd say, like, the announcement of Persona 5 is probably pretty close, but my little 10-year-old heart fucking just about escaped out of my chest when I saw Sonic was gonna be in Smash. Other than that, like, speaking of Persona 5, I would say Joker being in Smash is probably the second one. I think, like, when I was on my hiatus, the one video that me and Flair mutually were so tempted to be like, you know what, break's over, we're making a video about this, was Joker being revealed for Smash. But we held off, and fuck, dude, that was like, I remember I was actually about to go to sleep, and my brother was watching the Game Awards in his room, and I heard him go, "Is that Persona?" And I immediately jumped out of my bed and went into his room, and when Joker grabbed the fucking Smash Brothers invitation, I lost my mind, dude. So yeah, I'd say Sonic and Joker are definitely the two most exciting Smash reveals for me. Alex the Spartan says, congrats on 50k. I wonder, now that you've seen some Gundam shows, if you would do a character video for someone like Camille. It'd be pretty cool to see some Gundam content on the channel. Yeah, I would say at some point definitely expect Gundam stuff. Me and my friend Grady, he's the one who's made me go through all these different Gundam series. We have a plan to do, like, just this big fuck-ass retrospective on all the Universal Century shit that we've seen. So look forward to that. I might end up doing some character videos, but we'll see. Camille is absolutely the one that, like, if a character got a video, it would be him first. But there's some others I wouldn't mind making videos on. Pedro Silva, I guess that's how you say that, says, I want to know, how do you feel knowing people all around the world see your videos, like me being a Latino from Brazil, or one friend of mine who lives in Portugal sees your channel? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, obviously I've grown up on the internet age, so the idea of talking to people from, like, all around the world isn't really super foreign to me, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around the idea that anybody watches my videos, let alone people from, you know, Latin America, from Europe, Asia, just from, like, all over the place, is crazy, and I definitely appreciate it. Meme Man, one question, I ask this to every Guilty Gear player, thoughts on your main's Baiken matchup? So, I don't have a ton of experience fighting Baikens. I don't really know anybody who, like, plays Baiken, but it's definitely not the worst. Like, I play Bedman, so there's absolutely a million other characters that, like, I would prefer to not fight. You know, somebody shows up with the Baiken, I'm like, alright, yeah, that's fine, I'll fight a Baiken. But otherwise, I don't really have a ton of experience fighting Baikens. Nox Yumi says, congrats on 50,000 subs. I listen to a lot of your videos while I fall asleep, especially the longer podcast ones. That is awesome. Like, sometimes people are like, I fall asleep to your videos sometimes. Is that bad? I'm like, no, that's awesome. If I can give you the gift of falling asleep, then I've accomplished something. Yes, are you going to give the Fate series another chance? Will there ever be any more Danganronpa content? Fate, maybe? Like, I had such a bad experience with the Fate Stay Night visual novel, I don't think I'll ever, like, give that another shot. But Fate is such a big series, I don't know, maybe at some point I'll check out some of the other, like, Fate stuff, but we'll see. And will there ever be any more Danganronpa content? Yeah, probably at some point. There's still a lot of characters I want to make videos about. There's the Togami video that I teased for Danganronpa Week that never ended up getting made. So that'll have to be a thing at some point, but yeah, there's definitely still a lot of different Danganronpa characters I'd like to make videos on. Punch Rockgroin says, have you ever had a female listener interested in you? If so, was she actually attractive? I've had peculiar interactions with female Fither fans, which sounds like an oxymoron, but the weirdest one is definitely this chick who, like, named her dog after me. But yeah, sorry female Fither viewers, I am taken. Gelatin says, I've seen that you do a lot of Adachi-related content. Can you tell us why? I think at some point I'll end up just making this its own video, talking about, like, why I like Adachi so much. There's a really old video we have called, like, why is Adachi so popular, that kind of goes into my thoughts on that, but I don't know, I just find him to be such a funny character. Like, whether it's intentional or not, I think Adachi is probably the funniest Persona character. Just his existence can lead to so many weirdly comedic situations if you just kind of place him into whatever comedy routine you're trying to think of. And he's also just my favorite Persona antagonist, but maybe at some point I'll end up making that video kind of talking about, like, why Adachi, you know? F01 says, when are you going to read the Monogatari series? I'll have to learn how to read first. But I don't know, like, the Monogatari series just seems like one of those kinds of things that I don't feel like I'll ever be able to really get into. Like, I have a lot of friends who are really into it, but nothing about it has ever really caught my eye in any meaningful way. So, I don't know, maybe at some point I'll give it a real try and I'll realize, oh wait, it's actually the greatest series ever, but I don't know if it's for me. I don't know. Sense Deletion says, I live in Louisiana, can I meet you at the next con, whenever the hell that is? Yeah, absolutely. Like I said a while ago, like, if, God forbid, another con, like, happens ever, then maybe I'll end up scheduling, like, a meetup or something. But if you're ever at MechaCon in Louisiana, look around for the little blonde dude in the Caroline outfit, because that's probably me. I'm afraid of fucking up your last name, so Scene? I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Says, I actually cried when I heard you were going to quit YouTube after the P5 burnout. Watching this channel feels like I'm hanging out with my friends and I don't want to lose that. Oh, it's so sweet. Thoughts on Bionicle? I don't know, like, I never really grew up having a lot of Bionicles. I think they're cool, but I never really had a lot of them as a kid. They look pretty baller, though. Alright, I ate some spaghetti. Time to answer more questions. Pet Rock says, how do you make your thumbnail backgrounds? They're very swag. Here is a video presentation on how I do that. Alright, so this is how I make my backgrounds and thumbnails and such. Don't blink, you'll miss the science. So basically all I do is I take a couple different colors. We're gonna go with nice kind of selection of purples. I usually go with about 3 different colors. Maybe 4 if I'm feeling a little fancy, but I just do that. Then I go into distort, eye warp, crank that boy up, and then I kind of just swirl until I get a swirl going that I'm happy with. A little bit more. Yeah, that's a good swirl. And then I go back into filters, artistic, oilify to kind of smoothen out those edges, and there we go. That is a thumbnail. Ali Hussein says, congrats on hitting 50k subs. It's always very nice to watch a couple of your videos whenever I'm in a bad mood. Honestly speaking, there's tons of quality shows and games that I got initially introduced to via this channel. Much appreciated. Yeah, no problem, man. That's great to hear. And he asks, will you make a Persona 4 cursed mod tier list in the future? That's not a bad idea. I might do that. Like, in a million years, when I'm finished with, like, the cursed Persona 4 golden mod streams, I might end up doing that. It says, maybe an Adachi Voice comedy show? I don't know, like, at least for me, all of the Adachi videos are really spur of the moment, like, just weird random shit that I either come up with or somebody suggests that I think is pretty appealing. I'll end up doing it, but I don't know if I'd do a whole ass, like, comedy show based around it. Crimson Avenger says, always enjoyed your videos, man. They're really entertaining to me, and congrats for reaching 50k. Thank you. Yes, would you like to see P5 Arena be a thing as the final game for P5, or would you rather Atlas focus on other projects after Scramble/Strikers? Like, at least for me, I'm not really one of the people that's, like, really dying to have a Persona 5 Arena. I think if it came out, it'd be pretty cool, but, you know, Ultimax wasn't really a game that I was, like, super crazy about, so I feel like if P5 Arena had a lot of that similar kind of design philosophy, I don't know if I'd be crazy about, like, actively playing it, but it'd be cool if it were a thing. And as for the other part, like, I'm pretty much always of the mindset of, like, make new things. You know, I really like a lot of the Persona spin-offs and stuff, but I think I'm definitely ready for something fresh and kind of out of nowhere, so some sort of brand new IP or, like, the resurrection of something we haven't seen in a while. I think that'd be pretty cool. LinkX has a very sweet comment, says, hey, Fither, congrats on reaching this milestone. My apologies if this is a long one. I have some things I want to say. I'd like to thank you and Flair for all the laughs and entertainment you've provided to us all over the course of these 5 years. Yeah, wow. 5 years. I guess it hasn't been that long. Says, it's been a wild journey to witness how much you've grown while still being so short. That's it. I'm moving on. No. I'm glad I sticked around after watching some random-ass videos about P5 girls as mothers to see it all, even if I barely interact. Says, thanks for broadening my horizons in relation to many games and anime. To name a few, it's thanks to you guys I've taken an interest in Danganronpa and the rest of the Mega 10 games, so thanks for that. No problem. Glad you stuck around for so long. He says, 3 questions I'd like to ask. I pretty much already answered this first one. Will we get a new season of the Fither games or Fifth Wrestle? Maybe at some point, yeah. Maybe I'll end up doing a stream of that and get Flair on the program. We haven't done one of those in a long time, but maybe at some point, yeah. Says, on a more personal note, would you say the channel has in any way changed your life or the way you view things? Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's done a lot for me. Like, pretty much every person that I talked to on the internet I met because of the channel. A lot of friends, a lot of memories from it. And I think in general it's really done a lot for my own kind of confidence and self-esteem. I'm still a pretty anxious fucker, but like, it's at least a lot easier for me to just kind of talk to people now. And it's also nice just having that creative outlet, because like, I was the kind of kid that never really expressed any opinions about anything. I was always like that kind of weird kid who wasn't into Call of Duty or Halo or whatever. I was always into like weird Japanese shit and whatever, so it feels nice having a way to finally be able to like just talk about shit that I like and have people actually listen. So yeah, it's definitely been a positive force for me, I would say. This motherfucker Grady says, oh, you're the P5 moms guy. Forgot I was sub to you, but congrats anyway. Yeah, you're a funny guy. He says, do you like that SMT games often have a re-release that offers more content like Devil Survivors, P4G, P5R, FES, Catherine Full Body, Deep Strange Journey? Is the content added in the re-releases meaningful additions or shallow cash grab milkings? Any expanded editions you'd like to see on other Atlas games? I don't know, it's hard for me to give a definitive they're all cash grabs, because a couple of these games I do genuinely enjoy the additions that they've brought. I think, like, out of at least the ones you presented, Persona 5 Royal, I think, has my favorite, like, new content out of any of them. Catherine Fullbody, I really enjoyed the inclusion of Rin, but she, whatever, really did stick out like a sore thumb, and kind of messes with the overall message and theming of the game, so it's like this weird conundrum of, I really enjoyed the character, but, like, why did it have to be in Catherine, you know? So it really does kind of run the gambit from, like, completely basically meaningless to, like, relatively kind of fine to actually really enjoyable. And I think it really just depends on the game. Like with Devil Survivor, their additions, their 8th days, I think is pretty harmless. So yeah, it really does kind of run the gambit. But any expanded editions you'd like to see on other Atlus games? Like, in terms of more recent releases, I can't really think of anything that, like, I would want there to be an expanded edition of that hasn't already gotten it. I wouldn't really want, like, SMT4 or 4 Apocalypse to be messed with in particular. Devil Survivor already has both of theirs. Instead of, like, expanded editions, I think I'd really like to see just more, like, ports and collections of these games. You know, especially for a lot of these, like, older, more obscure kind of titles. Like, the SMT1 English, like, version that was on iOS is just basically impossible to attain now. So I think just translating a couple of these older games and putting them on, like, a compilation would be pretty cool. Timmy Tom says, since you haven't been talking about this topic recently, what's your opinion on the Hololive English girls? I like them, but I wouldn't say any of them are really, like, some of my favorite VTubers. Over time, I've definitely grown an appreciation for Kiara. Like, the fact that she can speak Japanese and interact with the other, like, the Japanese VTubers, I think helps a lot. So there have been some fun moments of them interacting, but, you know, I like Watson, I like Ina, I like Callie, and I like Gar, but I don't feel like any of them are really, like, my favorites, but they're a pretty good group overall. Blu-ray says, congrats on 50k, my man. Which do you think is worse, shipping or power scaling? Oh, man, these are two very bad things. So, like, power scaling is at least a thing that I have kind of an interest in. You know, I think that's cool, basically just being like, which one would win, Naruto or Dragon Ball Z? But applying, like, actual math to it. You know, I like watching, like, Seth the Programmer a lot, for example, so they can both get pretty nasty. I don't know, I think, like, shipping, like, actual genuine shipping wars are more kind of obnoxious to me because it's all so subjective, you know? All that talk about which pairings are and aren't canon or whatever, and people trying to find, like, objective evidence to, like, prove their ship is just really weird to me. Like, at least with power scaling, you can be like, oh, he blew up the moon and that requires this much gigatons of force and da-da-da, so he's probably this strong. But I guess since shipping is just a lot less interesting to me, I guess I'll have to say shipping, but at their worst, they're both really bad. Francisco says, congrats on 50k, my dude. Been here since P5 Moms. Thanks to you, I got into series like Battle Network, Guilty Gear, Fire Emblem, SMT, and now I've gained an unhealthy addiction to Futanari. Those are all great things to be into. And he has, do you plan on doing more retrospectives like you did with Resident Evil? Maybe? Resident Evil was kind of a unique situation because it was basically an entire series that I went into fresh, so all of my opinions were, like, immediate, you know? Whereas a lot more of different series that, like, I would maybe think about doing something like that, they would end up being more, like, it'd probably have a lot more to do with, like, my memories of the thing, but I don't know, I wouldn't mind the idea of maybe doing something like a Guilty Gear retrospective, because Strive is coming out. I mentioned that Metal Gear retrospective idea, that's a possibility. So yeah, maybe, but we'll see. You said you find classic Mega Man 2 frustrating. Would you try getting into other branches like X, Zero, or Legends? So I do actually have the Mega Man X Legacy collection. I have it on Steam. I don't remember how I got that, but I have it. So yeah, maybe at some point I'll give those a try. But, I don't know, in general, I'm just not that big of, like, a platformer fan. It's just not really a kind of genre I really grew up on, like 2D platformers especially, but we'll see. I do really enjoy the kind of aesthetic of Mega Man. I think it has some really great designs and stuff, but I feel like my heart's always going to be the most attached to Battle Network. Do you read or watch My Hero Academia? I watched it up until about the 3rd season, and I don't know why. For whatever reason, my interest in it kind of just, like, stopped. And it didn't really have anything to do with, like, oh, yeah, now the story is bad or whatever. I don't know, I just kind of lost interest in it, but maybe at some point I'll pick it back up. And do you still plan on doing that AVGN-style Tokyo Mirage Sessions review? Yeah, absolutely. It's still a thing we totally want to do. It's just, maybe it would have happened this year, but the you-know-what virus happened, so that kind of put a stop on our plans, but Yeah, sometime in the future it'll definitely happen. Sid the Kid says, with the return of the Bleach anime, are we going to see more Bleach debates, discussions? What changes should they make in the adaptation of the Blood War? I'd say yeah, probably. There will be some more Bleach stuff. There's still a lot of different Bleach characters and topics I'd like to talk about. And what changes should they make? I don't know. This gets into like a really weird topic of author intent and if Kubo wants the shit to be changed, because like I'm positive if, you know, the Bleach anime staff were like, Mr. Kubo, would you like anything to be changed? And if he really did want shit to be changed, he'd be like, yeah, alter this. But then that gets into this weird fucked up conundrum of like which version is canon and stuff like that. I don't know. At least for me, if I was the one who was like, all right, we're going to change these things, I would definitely rework a lot of the final couple of chapters to at least give it some more breathing room so that the ending isn't so abrupt. Like, I could come up with a lot of fantasy scenarios for how I think Bleach should have, like, gone differently. Just one off the top of my head is, like, instead of the Zero Squad just getting fucked like they did, I think it would have been a lot better if, like, the 4 members other than Ichibei all went to fight a different member of the Schutzstaffel. I think that would have been really cool. Because then you'd have, like, I don't know, Kenpachi, Byakuya, Toshiro, and Oetsu all fighting Gerard. Like, wouldn't that have been sick instead of them just getting fucking no-scoped? But, you know, that gets into, like, fanfiction world, basically. So, I don't know. I'm not really expecting anything about it to change in particular. If it does, I'll be surprised, but I don't think I'm gonna be too upset if it ends up pretty much just being a direct translation from the manga. Bald DDD, this motherfucker bald, says, congrats, dude, you're a really funny guy. Oh, am I? Thank you. He says, I just bought Devil Survivor, Overclocked, and Digital Devil Saga. Which should I play as my first non-Persona SMT game? Assuming you've already played a Persona game, you'll feel pretty at home with Devil Survivor. They both have a similar, like, time management and interacting with people sort of gimmick going on. Whereas Digital Devil Saga is a lot more, like, dungeon crawlery. But ironically, the combat is actually a lot more similar to how it is in Persona, because, like, in Digital Devil Saga, you don't summon demons, you are the demon. So it's really up to you. If you want something more kind of similar to Persona, I would say start with Devil Survivor. But if you want something different, then start with Digital Devil Saga. Quentin Small says, what's your favorite romance in fiction? Like, I'm not really a guy who's ever super into romance. There's a couple of, like, romance stories and stuff that I find cute, but one off the top of my head is Nia and Simone in Gurren Lagann. I think those two are really cute. Camille and Fa in Zeta Gundam is another one I think is really cute. And there's a couple in 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim I think are really cute, like Tomi and Ogata I think is a cute ship. So yeah, that's a couple of them. Mr. Zuluroon asks, will VTuber Fither ever make a comeback? Every now and again on a stream, I'll whip out VTuber Fither. But it's the kind of thing where it's like, it's just an added layer of maintenance that I have to do, because it's like, I use this really shitty free jank program that, like, sometimes the VTuber model will just freak out, and I have to, like, reset it, so it's kind of a hassle unless I'm doing, like, just chatting, but yeah, probably at some point. Says, also thanks for making some of my favorite things to just watch on YouTube. No problem. Mango Consumer says, apart from Japanese coffee bread, what's your favorite food? My favorite food is jambalaya. It's just like rice and like whatever meat you want to put in there, either sausage or shrimp usually. And then it has all these different seasonings in it. It's pretty good. It is a Louisiana classic. Chef in a Bottle says, congrats man, you've dabbled with Dragon Ball a little bit on the channel before. Any chance of seeing something else? Yeah, probably at some point. I don't know, it's kind of weird because like Dragon Ball is basically my favorite multimedia franchise, but I really don't talk about it a whole lot. This year coming up, I have a video I've been wanting to do for a while. It's a comprehensive look back at my history with Goku Black, who's my favorite Dragon Ball character. And I've been meaning to do that for a while. Now that it's like close to the 5th anniversary of Goku Black, which freaks me the fuck out thinking about, but I think now's like a pretty good time for it, so around the summer I would say to expect that one. Beelzebub Lord of the Flies, holy shit, real Beelzebub? Says, favorite Sonic game of all time. I am one of those boys who likes Sonic Adventure 2. And even though it's kind of like a weird fucked up mess of a game, I still thoroughly enjoy it, even despite the fact that it is kind of funky. It's very, like, comforting, I'll say that. It's one of those, like, comfort food kinds of games that I grew up on. So yeah, definitely Sonic Adventure 2. Marin Hack says, how'd you get so good at an Adachi impression? Do you think Johnny Young Bosch would like it? I think, like, the most important thing is to get into character. Think of a lot of vile thoughts. Think about pushing people into TVs. Like, the Adachi voice used to be, like, kind of a meme. I think part of the joke was just the fact that it didn't quite sound like Adachi, but now I've gotten the voice to actually be pretty close to the character, so I'm pretty happy about that. But do I think Johnny Young Bosch would like it? Maybe. I'm sure he's seen 10 million impressions of his characters, but I don't know, I would feel, like, embarrassed doing that in front of Johnny Young Bosch. That'd be like making one of Gordon Ramsay's dishes in front of him. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna do it as good as you. Like, Ginger Music says, congratulations, you really deserve it. As for my question, what is one experience in reality or fiction that, if you could, you would experience for the first time again? At least for, like, video games, there's a couple. Like, Persona 3 is one that immediately comes to mind. Watching Gurren Lagann for the first time again. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is another one. JoJo Part 4. I mean, I think, like, a lot of my favorite shit, I wouldn't mind having a redo over just to experience it fresh all over again. Because, you know, it's never quite like your first time, but yeah, that's a couple of them. Wally Naka says, first off, congrats on 50k. Your VTubers video pushed me into the rabbit hole, and I can't thank you enough for that. I'm not joking when I say VTubers have low-key changed my life. That's great to hear, man. Now the question, is there anyone that you look up to that has changed your life in some way? See, I'm like this weirdo freakazoid who lives in fantasy world. There's really not a whole lot of, like, real people that I think I, like, look up to in that way. I think I've unironically learned more about, like, good ways to improve myself from fucking video game and anime characters. Killer Waffle says, congrats on 50k subs, Fither. Would like to know if you have any interest in the Nier franchise. I feel it would blend in nicely with the topics on your channel. So I have played Nier Automata. I'm like that guy who's played Automata and none of the other ones. And like, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say it was like really one of my favorite games from that year. And even though I enjoyed it, I don't feel like it's the kind of thing I could really spend a lot of time really talking about. Like, I know the Nier Replicant, like, remaster is coming out later in 2021, so maybe I'll get that, but we'll see. The Caffeinated Narwhal says, favorite moment from the Persona series, cutscene or maybe boss fight. Congrats on the milestone. Thank you. My favorite scene in all of Persona is Akihiko's awakening in Persona 3. I think I covered that in my video that, like, I made about Akihiko a while ago, so if you want to see, like, learn more about that, you can go check that out, but yeah, I just find that to be such a powerful fucking scene that really encapsulates the theme and the message of Persona 3 being about the permanence of death and the kind of inevitability of death and the fact that even in spite of the fact that we are mortal and that eventually we'll be gone, there is meaning in life. And that when it's gone, so you might as well live to the fullest. I find that to be, it's such a powerful scene. And that was also, like, the first Persona awakening I experienced, because I didn't know that it was, like, a thing, that your party members' personas would change like that. And that's also what led Akihiko to being my favorite Persona character, so that's definitely my favorite moment from the series. Roxas Powers says, first of all, congrats. Here's the question. Why did you start your YouTube? The actual answer is I wanted to leave comments on videos about Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, my YouTube account is old. I've been on YouTube since 2006, and I made my account in 2007. As for, like, what made me want to make videos, like, ever since I first pretty much got on YouTube, I always had a desire to make something. It just took me a while before, like, I finally ended up actually uploading stuff. But yeah, I feel like that drive to make things has always kind of been there. It just took me a while. Ya boy Tosh, Gacha Game, says, one of my favorite mobile games, Dragalia Lost, recently data mined some info about a possible P5 Scramble collab units. Would you play it if it got confirmed? That's kind of tempting. I don't know. Like, Persona 5 has had so many collabs and so many different gacha games, it's hard to keep track. Like, I don't really start a gacha to get Persona 5 units or whatever. I already kind of have my hands full with Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle being my, like, gacha game, but, you know, I might give it a try. We'll see. And Schlock Weekend 2, when? Maybe sometime this year coming up. Syef96 says, favorite pairing from Persona and Fire Emblem. With Persona, I really don't do a whole lot of, like, shipping beyond, like, oh, the protagonist and whichever girl happens to be my favorite, you know? I guess one is kind of like, in Persona 5, the animation, I swear on me mom, this is the only time I've become, like, a real shipper, but I swear Makoto and An were girlfriends in that show. They were together, like, all the time, and I thought they were mighty cute, but beyond that, I wouldn't say I really have any, like, Persona ships. As for Fire Emblem, one that immediately comes to mind I like a lot is Sylvain and Dorothea. I think are a really cute couple. Henry in Awakening, I think he's cute, like, no matter who he ends up with. Dusk says, love you, no homo. Oh, I love you too. For real though, what's your favorite type of stuff to make for the channel? Analysis stuff, stream highlights, etc. This year I've had a lot of fun. I would say, like, My two favorite kinds of things I've started making a lot of are the Adachi, like, just an ASMR and general videos, and then the stream highlights. Those have both done very well and have also been, like, just so much fun to make. But I also really enjoy, you know, just the videos where I kind of open up and talk about, like, certain characters or games that mean a lot to me, the impact they had on my life. Yeah, I really don't mind just kind of laying it out there and letting you know, yeah, this thing almost made me cry, and I'm really attached to it emotionally, or whatever. Proz asks, do you ever fear feeling apathetic towards the things, games, shows, etc. you once loved or inspired you? I'd say, like, burnout is a lot bigger of a fear for me than apathy. Because, like, when I really, really enjoy something, usually that spark doesn't, like, die out. Obviously, with time, things start to mellow out, but I don't think there's ever going to be a point in my life where I'm, like, apathetic about Gurren Lagann or Code Geass or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or whatever. I think it's kind of natural to just go in these cycles of, like, feeling really excited and into a thing, and then you kind of mellow out. I'm not really afraid of that, because I think that's just natural. You know, sometimes I'm in a real mood to make videos about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and then sometimes I really want to talk about Persona or whatever, so if I ever do end up feeling kind of, like, apathetic about a series, I'm not, like, forced to talk about it, you know? Angry One asks, if you could remove 3 Fire Emblem characters from Smash and replace them with 1 Fire Emblem character, which ones would you pick? 2 immediately off the top of my head. I think I would get rid of Chrom. I like Chrom, but I feel like he's a little bit kind of unnecessary. Like, I don't think we need more than 1 Awakening rep, and Robin is so unique as it is. I would probably get rid of Roy, even though Roy's my boy, and I'm, like, really attached to him as, like, this weird character I know from Smash, but not as much from his game. You know, I'm attached to that, but I really don't feel like he's that necessary. And then I'd probably toss out Lucina as well. You know, you can make the argument of, like, I really don't like Corrin as a character very much, but his gameplay is at least pretty unique compared to some of the other Fire Emblem characters, so, you know, I think just on a gameplay merit, he can stick around. Now, replacing with a new one is kind of weird, because, like, obviously it should probably be a Lord. You know, being the big Soren fan I am, I'm naturally inclined to be like, oh yeah, I want a Soren in Smash Brothers, but that's just not very realistic. So I would say probably Hector, I think, would be a cool inclusion. Fire Emblem characters are usually a lot more kind of fast and graceful, and Hector's like this big bruiser man, so I think that would just be kind of interesting. And, like, Byleth has, the axe as one of their, like, specials, but Hector's, I think, the only one who primarily uses an axe, so I think that would be cool. So I would say I'd probably swap them out for Hector. Petra Severin says, are you in uni or college? What is your current full-time job? Full-time job. That's funny. I'm a fucking bum at the moment. But no, I graduated, I got my degree this past year. I have an associate's in computer networking, so it's something. But as of right now, I am seeking employment. This economy is a bitch. Kufiro Drukala says, who's your favorite video game illustrators or artists and why? Off the top of my head immediately, Soejima is definitely one of my favorites. The man just has, like, such a way with fucking colors and designs, and, like, everything he touches is just so beautiful. I also really like Nomura's art. He's another one that I like a lot. And whoever does the art for the Vanillaware games like Dragon's Crown and 13 Sentinels is a god among men. TNCA asks, would you describe the YouTube experience as mostly satisfying? Yeah, I would say mostly satisfying. There's obviously the times where, like, a comment gets under your skin, or a video you were hoping would do better doesn't really do that well, but I'd say definitely, yeah, especially the past, like, year has been really, really enjoyable. Dark Daniel says, question, if you had the choice to go back, would you rather want to have a smaller community of people you know a lot about, or keep striving to make the biggest wholesome community of like-minded people as possible, but not know as many of them as well? Man, that's a tough one. Like, they're both good, obviously, but I think there is something very kind of magical and special about being a really small channel, and you have, you know, a handful of different people that comment pretty regularly, that feels pretty close-knit. I actually remember thinking, back when I had, like, I think not even 100 subs, I remember thinking, like, man, I think it would be so cool to have a channel with, like, you know, 100 or 200 subs or whatever, this close-knit group of people that just like what I do. And through some magic I don't fully understand, there are now 50,000 people. But I think I'm in a pretty good position as it is, where, like, I recognize quite a few different people who have been around, who show up to the streams, who comment often. People that I've known for a few years. So even though there are so many people, there's still a lot of people that, you know, I can pick out from a crowd and be like, oh, hey man, I know you. And even though I might not know them personally, it still feels good knowing that they've stuck around for so long. So I think I have a pretty good balance going on at the moment. Audacious Tomato says, Omedetou, Fither. There are more people subbed to your channel than there are people living in the town that I reside in. Imagine a city filled with your fans. It's weird. Oh man, that city would collapse overnight. Says, here's my question. Have you ever felt ashamed of being a fan of something? Have you been afraid of being associated with the stigma that's attached to a particular franchise? You see this kind of thing happen all the time with games that get popular out of nowhere. See Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale. It's happening with Persona 5 and arguably Smash. Where a certain stigma gets attached to the fans of a particular series, and seeing as how you're a fan of Persona, I was just curious. Yeah, like, it sucks to be typecast like that. You know, the running joke at the moment for the past year has been Smash fans are kitty diddlers, but I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, they're just stereotypes, right? You know, not everybody who likes Persona 5 is socially inept and thinks that, like, sending a calling card to a world leader is gonna do something. And at least for me, I've never really felt this urge to be like, oh man, I need to hide the things that I like. At least not on the internet. Like, in person, it's a different story, but... You know, I think as long as you don't act like a total goober, then whatever you like is pretty much fine. There's obviously people that are gonna be like, oh, you like this thing? Therefore, you're like this. And that's shitty of them, but I don't think you should let that, like, affect your enjoyment of a thing. You know, I get a lot more annoyed by, like, arguments and discourse surrounding a certain thing than stereotypes of people, but that's just me. Goose, I already answered the first part of the question, but he says, do you think SMT 5 will be a good place to start with the series? I love Persona 4 and 5, but I'm on the fence about SMT. I don't really know. Like, I don't feel comfortable giving a definitive yes or no answer, because, like, the game's not out. I think I'll give a presumptive probably just on the basis of, like, I really doubt that they'll make this, like, the hardest SMT ever or whatever, considering, you know, it's on a Nintendo console, it's supposed to be a really big, probably widely played release, at least by SMT standards, so I'm sure they'd make it at least a little bit less brutal than average, just to kind of accommodate people, but, you know, there's a huge library of SMT games if you want to kind of get your feet wet before diving headfirst into SMT 5. You know, like, Devil Survivor is pretty similar to Persona, Digital Devil Saga is good, Nocturne is good. So there's definitely ways you can kind of give SMT a test run before really getting into SMT 5. So I'd recommend maybe giving that a shot first. Perky the Turkey says, congrats on 50k, top 5 fast food places. I would say probably Chick-fil-A, Five Guys, I guess counts as fast food, Raising Cane's, Popeyes, and I guess Wendy's, or probably maybe Taco Bell, I don't know, one of those two. That's a definitive top 4 with a possible top 5 in there somewhere. Mubu says, the most handsome Megaten YouTuber in your opinion. Like, I don't know if you would, like, strictly count Johnny Awesome as a Megaten YouTuber or not, but I would say probably him. That's a good looking man, I don't know. Ben McGiggle says, have you thought about making a dedicated SMT4 discussion video? Do you think you would have enough to say? Maybe, I don't know, SMT4 is one of those games I'm just not that into. There's a couple of characters and stuff that I like, but otherwise it's definitely not one of my favorite games. Maybe at some point I'll make an attempt at replaying it and kind of give like a SMT4 revisited sort of video, but I don't know, I wouldn't really expect it to be a thing. I feel like at this point I'd rather play new things and kind of talk about that, but maybe down the road. Beetle Jumps, who are some of your favorite anime villains? A couple off the top of my head, like Adachi, obviously, is my favorite Persona villain. Kira Yoshikage, Funny Valentine, Aizen, Goku Black, that's another one. Father from Full Metal Alchemist, the Anti-Spiral. Haman from Gundam is another one. I'd say she might be my favorite, like, female villain. There's really not a whole lot of female antagonists in things I tend to like, but she might be my favorite. William Daly says, what is the best mechanical improvement in any one SMT game made on its parents' previous installments? At least for me, I think the, like, single best, thank God they fixed this, is how they changed Smirk from SMT 4 to 4 Apocalypse. Smirk was a mechanic that I just found so irritating, and in Apocalypse, it's a lot less annoying. You know, Smirk in SMT 4, when the enemy got it, it was kind of just like a fuck you to your current game state. Whereas in 4 Apocalypse, it works more just as kind of like a general benefit. Guaranteed instant dodge, that's really fun. And showtimes in Persona 5 Royal, I think are really, really cool. I enjoyed the showtimes a lot. Lando That G says, hey man, been watching for almost 3 years now, love your vids. My question is, when was the point when you finally decide I'm going to make a first YouTube video, and what was your inspiration? Similarly, what made you want to come back to YouTube following quitting a few years back? So the origin story of me uploading videos is like this weird myth that neither me or Flair remember fully, but we had a bet going on about something, and neither of us remember what it is. But basically, if I was right about whatever the bet was, or if I won the bet, then I wouldn't have to play Honey Pop, but if I lost, then I would have to, like, do a stream of Honey Pop. So I got onto Twitch, I was like, alright, time to play Honey Pop, and then everybody in the chat was like, you're gonna get banned? Honey Pop is banned on Twitch. I was like, oh fuck, I guess I'm turning this into a Let's Play. And it kind of just spiraled out of control from there, so that's the best bet I've ever lost. And what made me want to come back? I think it was just the fact that the desire to make videos never went away. I was kind of under the mindset that I would say, yeah, I'm done, and then I would never, like, feel the urge to create anything anymore. But I kept finding myself being like, yeah, but there's still things I want to talk about, you know? And so eventually I made the decision to kind of turn my, like, retirement into a hiatus, and a couple months later I was like, you know what? I'm coming back. And I deeply apologize. And also this message he left was very nice. It says, when I first found this channel, I was just 13, and I recently finished P5. Wow, you were 13? What the fuck? It says, I remember trying to jump to P3, not understanding something with the lore, so my 13-year-old brain thought I should DM you on Twitter and ask instead of researching myself, because you seem like some kind of lore god. Dude, I am in no way, shape, or form a lore god. I barely understand the lore of how to feed myself. It says, I remember you being incredibly nice to me, even though I was just a 13-year-old kid, so thanks for being cool. It says, shit like that made me realize you're a genuine person like some other big YouTubers. 3.5 years later. God, 3.5 years later. I'm now 17 and still watching. Damn, dude. Oh, baby boy's all grown up. It says, thanks for the many hours of entertainment, discussion, and fun, as well as inspiring me to make videos and to try many new games in anime I wouldn't have otherwise. Sorry for the whole ass paragraph. No problem. I really appreciate the message. NO Portal asks, what are the worst parts of every Persona game? For Persona 1, I would say it's the encounter rate combined with the kind of not really super interesting combat. At least for me, I just never found it that interesting. Like, the grid system is kind of sort of neat, but I don't think it really added a massive amount to my enjoyment. Persona 2 I haven't finished, but if I were to describe the two kind of things that, like, make it really hard for me to get through it is just how, like, slow and not that interesting the combat is. Even if you do just auto battle and fast forward, it still feels like it takes forever. And the system for getting personas in that game is so asinine. It's like, the system in Persona 1 was already kind of, like, obnoxious, but it wasn't that bad, but they somehow managed to make it even worse in Persona 2. The obvious answer for Persona 3 is no controllable party members, and, like, it is the kind of thing that I do find sort of annoying, but, you know, if it really bothers you that much, you can just play portable. Tartarus is, like, kind of boring, but I don't find it that bad. But yeah, I would say probably the uncontrollable party members. For Persona 4, I don't know, I can't really think of anything in Persona 4 that really stands out to me as being particularly bad. I guess for me, it's just the fact that there's so many social links in Persona 4 that I just find okay. But it's not really that big of a deal. And in Persona 5, I would say the stretch from, like, after finishing Sai's Palace to the end is not very well thought out. Just in terms of, like, the actual storytelling and character motivations, it's a little kooky. You know, I played Persona 5 Royal, and I was kind of expecting to, like, go through that final sort of arc and be like, okay, now I get it. But I still didn't. Like, you know, Akechi doesn't really make sense. Yall the Bouth doesn't really make sense. That's definitely kind of the weakest part of the game for me. But it's made up for by that third semester being baller as hell. Lemons asks, in your opinion, which Persona game is your favorite? Which one do you think is the best? Like, 3 is my favorite. I don't know, like, I really don't think I could choose a best when it comes to, out of the ones I've played at least. I'd say Persona 4 is the more consistent one, whereas P5 is a lot more kind of peaks and valleys for me, but which game do you think has the weakest confidants? Persona 3 is very peaks and valleys with its social links. It has some of the best in the series, and then some of the fucking worst and least interesting. Persona 4 is a lot more consistent, but I feel like most of them are just kind of eh. I think Persona 5 kind of has the best, like, ratio to quality confidant sort of graph going on. You know, there's a couple of stinkers in there, but in general, they're pretty good. And then my own girlfriend asked me, why are you gay? I'm not gay. If I was gay, why am I dating a girl if I'm gay? Getting bullied in my own Q&A by my own GF. This fucking question made me crack up, and I don't know why. Faulty Video says, what is your favorite feast food restaurant? Personally, mine is Rob Dubster, where the fish is so fish that the Bobster absolutely leaves in comparison. Seriously though, what is your favorite restaurant? Fucking... I don't feel like I can think after reading that. Have you ever heard of Chick-fil-A? 5-star dining? Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I really have like a favorite restaurant. I'm not really somebody that like goes out to eat like that a lot. I've been into Hell's Kitchen in Las Vegas. That's probably my favorite restaurant I've never eaten at. Sanic Guy asks, more Code Geass content. Absolutely. When the new anime starts airing, you can expect probably some videos about that. I have an idea for a review series for all the episodes of Code Geass. I don't know how many of you have been watching my Girls and Panzer review series, but it would basically be that. I would have a catastrophic amount of shit to say about Code Geass, because it really is one of my favorite anime ever. But I feel like people would end up getting kind of tired of seeing, like, oh, Code Geass, retrospective episode, whatever. So I'd maybe end up putting that on, like, Fifth stuff or something. Maybe I'd put up, like, the first episode on the channel, but that's something I'd maybe want to do, but that would end up being such a massive project, I don't know. But yeah, I would say definitely expect some eventually. Bodonk Clank says, do you think hate towards new additions towards series comes from nostalgia and unattainable standards created from their childhood vision of what the series used to be? For example, people always complaining about new Pokemon games and calling them uncreative compared to older generations. I think, yeah, that absolutely plays a role in people's kind of perception of the quality of things, because I feel like it's natural as you get older to kind of start like critically thinking about things, and naturally one of the first things you tend to do is stuff that you're already like criticizes stuff you're already familiar with, right? I think that's part of why you see so many mega geniuses talking about like whatever the newest Pokemon game is not good. Like, as a perfect example, I remember when around when Gen 5 came out, it was nothing but cool to hate on that game. Everybody seemingly was of the opinion that those games were dog shit, that they were terrible, that Pokemon is ruined. And now it seems like every other person, their favorite generation is Gen 5. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that now the kids that kind of grew up on Gen 5, they're now old enough to participate in those discussions and be like, but I like Gen 5. So I think that's kind of just a universal constant, is the idea that what I grew up with is good, and what's new is, like, foreign and scary and not as good. Like, you see that with every generation in human history, right? Like, the boomers are like, oh, you fucking kids with your iPads and your dingle-dangles. And I'm sure their parents are like, oh, you motherfuckers and your television. I'm sure Gorgog, the fucking caveman, was talking to his son about how Ooga Booga cave painting foreign to me. But I don't know, I think it's just important to kind of remember that, like, whenever people describe, like, the magic of a certain game or series or whatever, a lot of the time the magic ends up being they were 8 years old when they played it, right? And that's obviously fine. Like, I have all kinds of shit that I played as a kid that I love to this day. You know, Sonic Adventure 2 is one. But, like, I don't go around acting like there was some secret magical sauce infused into Sonic Adventure 2, because a lot of that is just, like, I just liked it when I was a kid, you know? But I think it kind of works in the opposite direction. Like, if somebody has a legitimate grievance with a thing, you can't just sit there and be like, well, you only, like, have this grievance because when you were a child, you had memories of a thing, right? So, I don't know. The moral of the story is it's obnoxious either way, as per usual. Ludek Biss asks, do you put milk or cereal in the bowl first? Oh, absolutely, you gotta put the cereal in. If you put the milk in first, then you're committing a thought crime. And why do you have such a dump truck? I don't know, I think it's genetic. Serious question, how do you overcome anxiety when streaming or making videos? Like, I'm a person who suffers from very bad anxiety. Maybe it's kind of hard to tell in just the videos, but, you know, I've had points in my life where I'm just freaked the fuck out, like, for weeks straight at a time, and it's really not fun. I also just get this really bad social anxiety sometimes. Luckily for me, this past year I haven't really had to worry about that, but I think YouTube has definitely helped with that a lot. Just, like, practicing, you know, talking and dealing with people has really helped me kind of not freak out as bad, but, like, it's difficult. It really is, especially early on. It's like, that feeling of nervousness is really strenuous, but I think the best thing you can do is to just kind of find little ways to ease yourself. Like, for me, I always have a couple of notes on hand just to keep me on track. It usually doesn't help, but it's at least something, right? You know, if the idea of making, like, a video for a wide audience freaks you out, just kind of think, like, I'm just uploading this so my friend can see it, you know? That helps me a lot when it comes to streaming, is that, like, when I start streaming, I don't really think of it as, like, alright, time for 150 million people to watch me. I kind of think of it as more like, time for me to broadcast to my friends and the regular people who come to watch the streams, you know? And it just takes practice, honestly. Like, early on, I really had a hard time kind of like, speaking. You know, I sounded really afraid and, like, freaked out, and I've gotten a lot better at not sounding terrified when I'm recording, but it really just takes practice. You know, it's like riding a bike. It's the kind of thing that's, like, you just kind of have to do it and fall over a couple of times, and eventually you'll figure it out. And don't overthink it. I feel like that happens a lot, is where people, like, they get really obsessed with the possibility of, oh no, what if the video does bad? What if this and that? And just know that more people are going to enjoy what you made than people that don't. Like, pretty much anything you upload, there's either going to be people who like it or are neutral on it, and then there's like a small contingency of people who aren't crazy about it. CJKS asks, how many breads have you ate in your life? I ate your mama pussy. Says, but for real, if you had a stand, what would its name be and how would it work? Okay, so this is my original concept for a stand, is I would name it after the Michael Jackson song Dangerous. And the way it would work is, so I crack my joints constantly. Like, I crack my fingers, my toes, my neck. And that inspired the ability of my stand, where basically, as long as I have a line of sight to my target, I can crack a part of my body. I'm gonna crack my finger for you guys. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Hope you like that cracking ASMR. But basically, if I crack a joint in my finger, the target that I'm looking at will have a rupture at the same spot where I cracked the joint. And it would be enough damage to, like, probably not break the joint, but enough to just kind of, like, make it almost unusable. I'm kind of visualizing it as being, like, a degree of magnitude less than the damage that something like Kiss would do, so it'd probably be a destructive power of, like, a C. So that way I could just, like, crack all of my fingers at once and your fucking hand, like, nearly explodes. Or I could crack my neck as kind of, like, the ultimate ability and fucking basically guarantee your death. And I think that would be kind of cool, because it has, like, a set amount of almost ammunition, because, you know, you crack a joint, you can't just crack it again immediately. So yeah, that would be my stand. Special Snowflake asks, what was your main inspiration when creating your YouTube channel? At least in terms of, like, YouTubers, I would say James Rolfe, you know, Angry Video Game Nerd, is definitely my biggest, like, content creating inspiration. I am of the belief that the Angry Video Game Nerd is the greatest, like, web series ever made. And even though, like, the kind of content we make is completely heaven and earth, like, I don't know, it was just seeing the Angry Video Game Nerd and seeing something like that be made on the internet, I think, kind of sparked that initial desire to just create something. And, you know, that is just, like, that is the definition of, like, internet content to me, is, like, early Angry Video Game Nerd, just one or two guys filming something that they're passionate about. It's just like, oh man, that's where it's at, baby. Dylan Calton asks, what is your favorite video game soundtrack? I'd say for me, probably Persona 3 is my favorite, just because of the fact that, like, I can't really think of another video game soundtrack that's so unique and so totally, like, just is Persona 3, you know? The other Persona soundtracks are also really great, but I think, like, why I think the Persona 3 soundtrack is so special is because it's just so weird playing an RPG with those kinds of songs, you know? Like, you go back to the dorm, and instead of hearing a nice, pleasant, like, do-do-do-do-do, you hear, like, and I think it's just so unique and so totally encapsulates the style and the aesthetic of Persona 3. So Nincy left a pretty long comment, but I figured I'd go through it because it's such a sweet comment, but it says, hey Fither, no clue if you'll see this, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your channel. This might sound kinda cringy, but I had a pretty rough time my first year of college, so I had pretty much no friends, and your videos always managed to cheer me up. I initially started watching for your Persona and SMT content, but eventually I came to really enjoy the way you present topics in your videos. I listened to your videos almost every day when I was walking to class or anywhere else, and I'm pretty sure I got through all of them before you came back to YouTube. It was really nice hearing someone else's opinions on these games and shows that I liked so much but didn't have anyone to talk to about. When I found your channel, I thought it was dead, and I was kind of bummed out that there wouldn't be any more content, so I was incredibly excited when you came back. Still love your videos, they got me interested in so many games and shows that I didn't think I would have looked into otherwise. Your video on Guilty Gear basically got me into fighting games, and I don't know that I would have checked out JoJo if I hadn't seen one of your videos on it. As dumb as it may sound, I think your channel has had a very positive impact on me as a person, and you're definitely one of my favorite creators on the website. I hope you keep doing things you enjoy doing, you seem like a very enthusiastic person, and I think your enthusiasm... I hope you keep doing things that you enjoy doing, you seem like a very enthusiastic person, and I think that enthusiasm is pretty infectious. Thank you. I'm glad you've been enjoying the videos. And he asked, what kind of music do you listen to? Okay, so, music, like, beyond video game and anime soundtracks is basically the one topic that I don't feel comfortable talking about. I know it's weird, the idea that I'm willing to talk about, like, doujins and futanari and whatever else it may be, but music? Oh, hell no. But I've just had very bad experiences talking to people about, like, music. Even my girlfriend had to, like, strangle an answer out of me about what kind of music I listen to, but I'll keep it a mystery. I think that's more fun. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm extremely self-conscious and have gotten kind of bullied about it in the past. It's more fun if it's a mystery. Yeah, that's the angle I'm going with. Any old school anime recommendations? It depends on what your definition of old school is. Like, I really haven't seen a huge amount of anime made, like, before the 90s, even. At least for shit that came out from, like, before the year 2000. The original Ghost in the Shell movie is, like, one of my favorite movies. Oh, Mad Bull 34. If you want to see some wild fucking shit, look up Mad Bull 34. Don't watch it with your parents around. Serial Experiments Lane is a good show. Oh, yeah, Gunbuster. Gunbuster's a fucking classic. So, yeah, that's a couple. Plan says, hey man, congrats and you deserve it with the content you've been making. Why does figuring out fetishes exist? What's the inspiration behind it? Why? Because I wanted to talk about some fudas, baby. I don't remember if there's like a specific inspiration for it. It was just like this random thing that I decided to try out for some reason. I think it spawned from a conversation about like why Fuda is good, and then one of my friend was like, I don't get it, and I think it was up to me to try and, like, convince him, but yeah, that's pretty much the origin story of it. Black Knight asks, favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card? My favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card is Rocket Warrior. I actually told this story in my Hurricane Katrina video. I know that's a little bit jarring going from talking about a Yu-Gi-Oh card to Hurricane Katrina, but I had this Rocket Warrior toy, and it was, like, pretty much the first new toy I got after the hurricane, because like I pretty much lost almost all of my possessions, and that Rocket Warrior toy was like one of the first new things I got, and ever since then I've kind of treasured Rocket Warrior as like a monster. So yeah, definitely Rocket Warrior. And that's it. We are done. Woo! That was exhausting on my throat. But yeah, thank you all so much to everybody who asked a question. If your question didn't get answered, I'm very sorry. There are a lot of them. Feel free to swing by a stream sometime. I could probably answer it for you. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for 50k subs. I'll see you guys next time.